Hello, David. I want to play a game. As you can see, I have glued your mouth and nose shut, closing out your breathing passages. For years, critics like you have been spreading lies about movies, never giving them the credit they deserve. The game is simple. Rip your mouth open and tell the truth about my movie. Refuse and suffocate to death. The choice is yours.
Among others, Jigsaw stars Tobin Bell as he reprises his role as the Jigsaw killer in the next film in the Saw franchise. And you might be wondering how he's even in it at all, because if you've even seen the previous movies, then spoiler alert, he dies. And just like the other movies, the police are trying to investigate what's going on, how to find the victims of the latest attacks, and if it's even a copycat killer when the DNA evidence is suggesting otherwise. Based on that description alone, you probably think it sounds exactly like any of the other Saw movies, and you'd basically be right. I can't really go into detail about who the victims are or how the killings go or anything like that, because a big majority of how these films go is centered on the twists and turns that ultimately connects the dots between not only what happens in this movie, but how it connects to the series as a whole. Now, I've said it before that I was really excited to see this movie because it is my guilty pleasure series. I own the entire series on Ultraviolet. So let's get into it. People category. Acting-wise, nothing really stands out. It is a horror film, so pretty much what you're going to get throughout the movie is just people acting scared, freaking out the whole time. It's not a range. It's just stagnant throughout. 1. Just like any of the other movies, you're not going to really remember the movie for the characters specifically. They all kind of blend together as Jigsaw's next victims, and that basically does it. 1. I really like the fact that Tobin Bell's back because I wouldn't really consider a Saw movie really without his participation in it. Other than that, anybody could have been cast by anybody. 1. This is one of the categories that actually fits the series pretty well because they always give importance to every character in the movie. They all have a reason for being there. They all have importance that adds to the plot, so for that I will give 2 out of 2. Not a chemistry movie, pretty much what you would expect. 1 out of 2. Writing score. The dialogue, it plays an important part in the film, of course. Jigsaw's tapes and how he speaks and how he sees the world, always important. 2 out of 2. I also see this as a balanced movie. It mostly just follows this group of people as they're trying to survive as a Jigsaw killer, and on the other side is the cops trying to figure everything out. That's how it's always been. That's how it is again. 2 out of 2. Nothing deep or meaningful about the story in this movie. Of course, it's just a horror, so 1. Originality, I wish I could say it's super original and feels fresh and new, and that all the time that has been spent between the last movie and this created something spectacularly original, but it's just another Saw movie, and the only original parts of it comes down to the different ways people are killed, and of course the twists and turns that you normally expect. So 1 for originality. Interesting, of course, like I said, I was anticipating this movie for a long time. This is a guilty pleasure franchise, and this adds to that just as I expected it would. 2 out of 2. BTS behind the scenes. When it comes down to the visuals, I do add the fact that this is very gory. The way that is shot and the way that it makes it look either realistic or over the top is always part of the guilty pleasure. It is fun to watch, as twisted as that might seem. 2 out of 2. Nothing about the directing really stood out. It all felt like a Saw movie, as it should, but anybody could have made this a Saw movie, so 1 out of 2. The way that they either use CGI or practical effects when it comes down to the gory elements from beginning to end, from the victims having full body parts to, say, having less body parts, is edited together pretty well, and I have to give him props for that and say 2. It is as advertised as it should have been, so no false advertisement. 2. I've always liked the music for the Saw franchise. That's always what I want to hear from it, and I heard it twice in this movie, so 2 out of 2. Meredith Arc. Introduction did a good job kicking the movie into motion as you're introduced to the cops in the scenario, as well as the fact that another game is about to begin. That gets 2 out of 2. The inciting incident is obviously when the game not only begins, but you kind of figure out who the victims are, who the players are, and a hint of why they're there in the first place. 2 out of 2 for that. Obstacles, what do you think? It's Jigsaw, it's games, it's Saw. So 2 out of 2 for that. The climax and the falling action are very, very close together, as they are for most Saw movies. You get an explosive knowledge of and understanding of what happened in the entire movie. For the climax, that's 2 out of 2. And the falling action doesn't really feel like it calms down, but there is a new norm of sorts, so that only gets 1. How entertaining is it? Like I said, this is a guilty pleasure franchise, so no matter what, I'm pretty sure I was going to find it entertaining, and yes, I did. Do I consider a rewatchable movie? Yes. I consider all the movies rewatchable, and not only that, but if I could compare this one to any of the Saw movies before, I would say that it's probably closest to Saw 2 when it had that group of people that were all playing the games. Rewatchable, 2 out of 2. Fun. I had fun watching it. Guilty pleasure, 2 out of 2. I have an impulse to buy it. Eventually, I will probably buy a cheaper version. Right now, it's a little bit too expensive. I'll probably just add it to my Ultraviolet collection. So that gets 1. Impulse to talk about it. I'd have a discussion, but I won't be running off to somebody about the movie saying you gotta see it. 1. Does it suck the audience in? It sucked me in pretty good, so I'm gonna say 2 out of 2 for that. Specialty category. As with most sequels, I want to know 2 things. Does it fit in with the franchise? Does it feel like it belongs in the universe? For that, I will say yes, 10 out of 10. For a sequel, does it add anything new that wasn't there before? Sorta. The whole thing mostly feels like a combination of the other movies put together. There are some aspects of it that are new, as usual, with the killing devices, and some of the twists and turns that connects the dots. Some of the older original Saw movies did a better job of showing you clues throughout the movie that you could technically piece together before the movie was over. There are some clues, but what can I say? I'll only give it half points for and say 5. Horror, I consider it horror adjacent. It's not scary, it's just super gory, which does disturb some people. So for that, half points and say 5. Thriller, it did a very good job, as most Saw movies, at making it thrilling. You don't always know which victim was going to die next, or how they were going to die. They always put it in scenarios where it could be either of them equally. I will say Thriller gets 10 out of 10. Halfway decent? I think so. I think it fits what they were going for. It fits as another Saw movie. So 10 out of 10 for halfway decent. If we add all that up together, we get 80 out of 100 possible stars. 80%. Technically speaking, this is the highest rated Saw movie I have in my ratings, but this was the only movie that I actually used my rating model for. Guys, tell me what you thought of Jigsaw in the comments down below, and you know you can follow me on Track.tv and Twitter at the username IAMDWG, and as for YouTube, you know you can subscribe to me, hit that like button, and hit that bell to be notified when I come out with my next movie review, which will be thank you for your service. So stick around for that, and until then, peace out.